Bonjour, hi. Welcome back to another episode of Matthew's Always Wrong. And today I just want to start off the episode by talking about probably one of the greatest issues facing our societies right now, and especially in more developed countries. And it's a trend we've been seeing that's really accelerated after the pandemic, even though I hate whenever any politician or business goes, "Oh, because of the pandemic, all these things." I don't care. It's 4 years over. I don't care anymore. But this is a trend that has accelerated after the pandemic, and it's the opioid epidemic. Now, the opioid epidemic, for those of you who don't know, kind of basically started with Purdue Pharma, who essentially lobbied the FDA to get their drug Oxycontin approved, which was basically heroin. It was an opiate. It was a synthetic opiate, basically heroin, and it was used for pain management. And what they did is they helped incentivize doctors to overprescribe these heroin pills to patients who were feeling, who had back pain, who had leg pain, who were injured, or whatever it was. Originally, it was only meant for like terminal cancer patients who were definitely going to die and who needed serious amounts of help with their pain. But so then a bunch of people started getting hooked on all these pills, and that's when the government started realizing, hey, maybe it's not so chill that this company is just selling heroin. So they basically banned everything. They sued Purdue Pharma. They paid the biggest fine in history for that, but it was still much less than the profit. Obviously, it was less than the profit that they made, but it was still the biggest fine in pharmaceutical history. And then what happened to all those people who were addicted to these pills? Because it's basically heroin, it's very addictive. So what did they do? Well, they turned to the streets and they turned to real heroin. Because real heroin, it's cheaper, it's more accessible. When the government bans it, they ban the pills. Heroin's quite accessible for a lot of these people. So more and more people started getting hooked on heroin. But here's the issue with these types of drugs is that your tolerance gets built up really quickly with a lot of these. So a lot of people who went from Oxycontin, which was relatively low or mild in strength, right? Then they started moving up to heroin, and that drastically increased the power of the drug. So their tolerance drastically increased as well. Then, once heroin stopped working, there's a new drug on the market coming out of China. Fentanyl. Fentanyl's like heroin, but even stronger. This is one of the strongest drugs out there right now, but they've developed even stronger ones even after this, different subsets of fentanyl. But fentanyl is probably one of the most addictive, one of the strongest hitting drugs out there on the market. And it's been a big issue with people having their other drugs laced, their weed, their molly, their cocaine, all getting laced with fentanyl, and you've got all these party kids overdosing on it because they didn't know it was mixed with fentanyl. Dealers use it because it's much cheaper and gives you that strength without having to actually sell the real drug. If you put a little bit of fentanyl in the cocaine's going to feel a lot stronger. And it's a lot cheaper because you don't need as much. So what do you have? Well, it's a mixture of not only that, but public policy, where you have all these soft on crime and these drug decriminalization ideas. We just talked about what was going on in British Columbia. And you've got all these drug addicts that are being subsidized by the government. So what happens? You get a lot more drug users who are addicted to this extremely strong drug and whose lifespan is much shorter. If you start doing fentanyl, it's very tough to get out of it, and your lifespan, because you're going to need more and more and more because your tolerance is going to increase so quickly, but your lifespan is not going to be that long. Once you start doing it, you'll probably die within a year. You'll lean around the McDonald's or whatever you're going to do. You work as a cashier and you're just nodding off a little bit, but it's chill. Anyways, the point I was trying to get to is that it's very hard to get off of these drugs because they're so addictive, and the public policy around this has been horrendous. And a lot of people who end up doing this started because of these pharma companies who profited off of selling heroin to people. but also because a lot of these people have mental health issues. You know, they're schizophrenic, they're psychotic, they're whatever it may be. So they kind of need these drugs because they're a lot more dependent on it because they have trauma or whatever it is. All of this to say is we found an example of someone who was able to go clean. And they were able to go clean after a long time of drug use. So big congratulations, everyone. Round of applause to George Floyd for being 4 years sober today. Congratulations. Now everyone's gonna get mad at me. Everyone's gonna get mad. Oh my. Everyone's gonna get mad at me for saying these things, but it's true. Thank you to Derek Chauvin for intervening, and he needed to come in. See, George Floyd was headed down a bad path in life. He was addicted. He liked doing the drugs. He liked to party a little bit, you know. And then he sought help. He went out, he went to the police, and he sought help. And what did they do? Well, they got him clean. A lot of people aren't going to like that because the media's been spinning this very weirdly, and I don't really understand. But, you know, the fact is that he was addicted to heroin and fentanyl, and now he's not. So I don't understand why they put Derek Chauvin in prison. Free my man. He ain't doing nothing wrong. But no, that all joking aside, it's bad that people die, obviously. But the whole Black Lives Matter movement, which was literally based off of, well, in recent times, based off of this whole idea that George Floyd was a victim of racial injustice or systematic racial injustice by the policing system, is factually incorrect, and the media still loves to lie about it. Why am I bringing this up? Well, it was the 4-year anniversary of when he died, and they put Derek Chauvin in prison after the court case. They said that he held down on his neck and he couldn't breathe. What the autopsy report says, and this is the real autopsy report, one of them that came out a little bit later, what did it show? Well, George Floyd had a lethal amount of fentanyl in his system, enough that would have killed any normal person under normal circumstances. Not only did he have fentanyl in him, he also had a relatively low dose of methamphetamine in it. He had norfentanyl in him. He had cocaine, caffeine, and 2 other less prevalent in his blood, 2 other drugs. So all these drugs together, you got a bunch of stimulants, you got large amounts of these strong drugs in his system, and then you get into an altercation with the police, and then you die from an overdose. They love to say that Derek Chauvin was, you know, of course he mishandled the situation a little bit, but he did not kill him. The way his knee was on his neck, it was on the back of his neck, and there was really no way that would have fully choked him. Yes, George Floyd being on the ground would have prevented him from breathing, especially if there was enough force on him, because he wouldn't be able to expand his diaphragm. But he wouldn't need to breathe as much if he wasn't literally overdosing. Why did he get stopped? And here's likely what happened. Well, he goes to the store. He presents a counterfeit $20 bill. The cashier sees this, calls the police. He escapes. He gets scared that the police are going to catch him with all these drugs on him. So what does he do? He does the smart thing. Truly, it was quite smart, I would say. If I was in this situation, I would do the same thing. And he just ate all the drugs he had on him. He did them all so that, the cops couldn't catch him with possession. Then he gets into the altercation with the police and, sadly he passed away. And it's not like this guy was a saint or anything, right? He was a convicted criminal. He had several different charges for armed robbery, battery, and assault. This guy wasn't, he wasn't a saint. He wasn't like that new TikTok influencer saint that the Pope just turned into a saint. But, it's not good that they're dying. But again, the fact that the media and everyone hated him, and then the entire media pushing this narrative that there's systemic racism, and what did it allow? What did the Black Lives Matter riots bring to light? Oh, just free looting. Okay. And you know what the cops did? Nothing, because they didn't want to end up like Derek Chauvin. They made him an example. They made this white police officer who's been serving on the force, and I'm not saying this guy was perfect, he probably wasn't, but they put this guy in prison for, killing this guy who not only wasn't a great person, also committed a crime, also overdosed, so he didn't even really kill him. And then what happened? Well, they rioted in the streets, they looted, they stole, they destroyed small businesses, they destroyed billions and billions of property damage. And the media was okay with it, and the police were okay with it. And I just want to say it's a weird duality between this and, you look at the protests right now, the Free Palestine protests, and it's very odd how the police are cracking down a lot more on this, that they're attacking a lot more on the people who are criticizing Israel than they were attacking and criticizing the people who were literally rioting and looting in the streets. I'm not saying anything. People are going to go, you're saying something. I'm not saying anything. I'm just pointing out the facts. But yeah, so quick shout out to George Floyd. Congratulations. It's tough for a lot of people to go 4 years sober, cold turkey, but, congratulations. My next story, as usual, and this must be like the 6th time we bring this up. Boeing's back in the news. And I got more than one story. This is outrageous, truly. It's almost comical. It's almost like they're trying to do this. I feel like they're trying to kill people. So the first one was 2 different Boeing planes, one on Qatar Airways and one on Singapore Airways, a Boeing 787 and a 777. They both ended up hitting turbulence, and a bunch of people got injured. One guy died. So in the Qatar Airway, the Boeing 787, it was a flight to Dublin. They hit turbulence, and it injured 12 passengers. Then, just a few weeks later, I believe the Qatar one was more recent, but the Singapore, I think these were like a week apart, 2 weeks apart maybe. The Singapore one, same thing. 777 airline, 30 injured, 1 dead because of turbulence. Now, again, I gotta say it's not necessarily because of malfunction. We don't actually know. But this other report came out saying that, there was 300 of the 777 jets in Boeing's fleet have electrical faults where just, the fuel tanks on the engines just happen to sometimes ignite and blow up. Just, occasionally. It's chill though. It's chill. It's, it's fine. And by the way, in the Qatar one, they said there was a malfunction of the anti-turbulence technology. While in the Singapore one, there was no indication of malfunction. Well, isn't that just interesting? These guys gotta get their stuff together. By the way, everyone's gonna be saying that I don't support Boeing, okay? Listen, people. I am Boeing's #1 fan. I've not gotten any political contributions from Boeing yet. Boeing, please sponsor me. If you want to be the sponsor of the show, I'll support it. I'll make you an honorary Canada 1 member. I'll bring you in. It's okay. I think that we could do some real work together. But yeah, this comes as Boeing gets a $7.5 billion government contract with the U.S. Air Force for creating more weapons. Because here's what a lot of people don't know. We know that there's defense contractors. Your Lockheed Martin, your Raytheon, your Northrop Grumman. And then you look at Boeing, you're like, oh, it's just they're just like Airbus. They just make planes, right? They're super chill. They just want to help people get from place A to place B. Oh, Boeing's also a massive defense contractor? I get why the government doesn't really want to investigate in it. Oh, I don't know why, but that seems like a thought. But yeah, they just got calm little 7.5 billion from the big government to build some new weapons of mass, some weapons of murder, couple of munition contracts. Keep it chill, But I think that Boeing should just stop making planes. They're too spread out. Boeing's, I think they spread themselves a little too thin. On one hand, you got all these passenger planes. On the other hand, you make fighter jets and munitions to kill people. And I think just fully go into the defense contracting. Let Airbus do all the people work. Because then you're getting criticized by the media and everyone hates you. But if you become a defense contractor, all you're doing is building weapons of peace. All Boeing does is build weapons of peace. That's it. That's all they're building. Right? They're not building weapons of destruction. First of all, when America gets into a war using Boeing aircrafts, it's for peace and freedom. And don't you get that wrong. America has to go into Ukraine because the Ukraine needs to be free from oppression. Ignore the Nazis in the Ukraine. No, they're not actually there. There's no Nazis in the Ukraine. When Russia says they need to denazify, that's just because, they're just promoting fake news. There are no actual Nazis in the Ukraine. But yeah, so when we get into the next war, and I'm predicting the next war is probably going to be China-Taiwan, which I'm hoping for, I think Boeing should get the full contract. Give Boeing the full Taiwan bombing contract so that when they end up, sending all their fighter planes to Beijing, it's all made by Boeing. And then here's next level. Send the passenger planes to China. Boeing, divest your entire passenger plane division. Sell them all to the Chinese government. Tell them all the planes are fine. Which we know they are. We know they are because we support Boeing. Give them all your passenger planes. And then you create the planes or the fighter jets and all the munition and all the bombers that are going to go and destroy China in the war for Taiwan. And what are the Chinese going to do? Oh, we're going to fly Xi Jinping in an Airbus 777. Oh, he crashed and died. Shame. Just like, what was it, the president of Iran? Shout out that guy. When are people going to stop flying helicopters in the fog? I don't understand this. Didn't we learn our lesson already with Kobe? But here's the real question. Fundamentally, here's the real question. Who was more influential? The Sultan of Iran or Kobe Bryant? I think in terms of geopolitical impact, and I think in terms of, cultural impact, I think the president of Iran was more influential. I have to say, what's his name? Let's pull up what this guy's name was. I think he was the president. But yeah, this guy, he was flying in a helicopter, and they ended up crashing because there was so much fog, whatever it was. But he's dead now, but it's okay, it's chill. Mohammed Mokber. Oh wait, no, that's the new guy. That's the new guy they brought out. Mohammed Mokber, guys, is the new guy. He's chill. The old guy is Ibrahim Raisi. Ah, yes, he was like his name was like the murderer of Tehran or something. I don't know, whatever. But I'm just saying he's more influential than Kobe Bryant. And everyone who disagrees with me should go take a ride in a helicopter and see what happens. If the helicopter was made by Boeing, I would very much recommend. I would recommend it. But yeah, as usual, we keep talking about Boeing, and I think At some point we've already gone desensitized, and nobody cares anymore that they're just murdering whistleblowers and they're murdering people. And I will 100% continue to ride in Boeings all my life. I will not support a French company, Airbus. I will not support you. I only support 101 American homegrown companies that create weapons of peace. Does Airbus create weapons of peace? No. Does Air Canada create weapons of peace that can be utilized in the Middle East? No. Once they start making weapons of mass peace, then I'll support you. So shout out Boeing, you're doing God's work. Now this story, I'm so tired of these leftards. I can't deal with these people anymore. And finally, the Canadian government's doing something. As you know, the immigration crisis is truly outrageous, and you have all these criminals who are coming here from foreign countries. They're murdering people, they're cutting people up, and they're not getting deported. I don't understand. When you're weak on immigration and you're weak on crime, crime will go up and immigration will go up from more undesirable people. The people that are coming into Canada now are not the same type of immigrants that have been coming here in the 1970s or the 1980s. Those people integrated. Those people learned the culture. Those guys speak English and French. The people here are coming from India. They don't actually give a shit. They hate Canada. They hate white people. As a generalization, again, none of this applies if you become Canada 1. But a lot of them aren't, and that's the issue. They're entitled. They think that they have a right to be here. When, by the way, all right, it's a privilege, not a right to come study for $50,000 at a Canadian university. You paid the money. You came here. You're going to integrate. All right, buddy? All right? You don't deserve anything. We're the host country. You should be thanking us. You should be praying. Every morning when you wake up, you should be going, "Oh, Canada," and be singing the national anthem. Like how every citizen of Canada and every person who went up through the education system, every morning in school, you listen to the Canadian anthem. In America, you do the Pledge of Allegiance. In Canada, you listen to the national anthem. So you're going to come here and then you're going to start speaking another language and not learn the language and keep your religion and keep your entire culture, which, by the way, was the culture you left because the culture of rape and of arranged marriages and of poverty. And then you're going to come here and you're going to bring all your shit, all the shitty things that you fled. You flee a country because the country's shitty, right? And you're looking for more opportunities. And what you do, you come to a country which has already have a pristine reputation, which has been cultivated for hundreds and hundreds of years with a strong culture and a strong identity. And then what you do, I don't want to integrate. It's very disrespectful. And then when you commit crimes, the government won't even deport you. I don't understand these liberals. I don't get it. So what am I talking about? Well, in 2018, I believe, there's a massive news story where these kids going to a hockey game, they were part of a school. They were in a coach bus or whatever. They got struck by a semi-truck. 16 of them were dead and 13 were injured. And it was a massive scandal in Canada where, people would put up all their hockey sticks on the front of their doors and everyone we're all supporting the Humboldt victims. You know who killed them? Take a wild guess, guys. Take a guess. Let's play a little game. It goes, who kills the white Canadians? Oh, it must have been another white Canadian, right? Must have been a neo-Nazi. It must have been a white supremacist. Must have been one of those far alt-righters. No. All right, let's do a guess. His first name's Jaskirat Singh Sidhu. And, I'm mispronouncing that because I'm white and I don't really care. So this guy who came to Canada in 2013 became a permanent resident just a year ago. By the way, a year ago after he was convicted in prison. But what did he do? What did this guy do? He was just driving a semi-truck. He's just an innocent bystander. Yeah, an innocent bystander who ran through a stop sign in a semi-truck. hits the bus with all these kids in it and murders 16 of them. Then he goes to court, and he's been here he was in Canada for like 5 years, by the way, okay? He goes to court, and he pleads guilty to 16 counts of murder and reckless driving, or 16 counts of reckless driving, whatever it was. Got 8 years in prison, then was let off full parole last year. So he's supposed to be in prison for 8 years. He gets let off, gets full parole last year, and then guess what happens? He becomes a permanent resident. The government allows him, a criminal who disobeyed our traffic rules and murdered 16 people. They let him become a permanent resident in Canada. Does that sound... In what universe do these things happen? In what universe? But now, I think the government kind of got their shit together a little bit more, and they realized, hey, maybe we shouldn't give this convicted foreign criminal permanent residency, and they're deporting his ass. Let's go! Deportation number 1. Yeah, finally, 1 out of... Now we just need 800,000 more. But yeah, they're finally deporting him. His lawyer goes, I'm not very surprised because he's not a Canadian citizen. Yeah, you guys couldn't have figured that one out when you let him off on parole after serving, 4 years of his 8-year prison sentence? Which, by the way, you kill 16 people, 8 years is nothing, all right? If you kill someone, you deserve the death penalty. It's very simple. Unless it's self-defense and it's, whatever. Okay. But if you deliberately drive through a stop sign and murder 16 kids, how are you not either getting the death penalty or life in prison? And it wasn't, this guy was stone cold sober. He was just retarded. That's just what happened. Not actually retarded. He's just, a bad driver like many of these people are. And they're going to go, that's a stereotype. By the way, stereotypes are earned, not given. Okay? There's a reason why these things exist. Indians are bad drivers. Not all Indians, obviously not all Indians, but you have to prove yourself against the stereotype. Become Canadian, Once you integrate, become Canadian, you're no longer Indian, so the stereotype no longer works for you. Right? You go, well, Indians, they can't pass their driving test. They need 8 attempts, and then they end up crashing and killing people. And you go, well, me personally, I passed it. Yeah, because you're not Indian anymore. You're Canadian, aren't you? Because I swear to God, if I say, what are you? And you go, whatever country you're from, and you don't say Canadian, bah, deported. That's what's going to happen. But yeah, you murder people and you don't get the death penalty? This is outrageous. We need to bring back the death penalty in Canada because I think this is truly a travesty. And all the other people on the bus saying, like a bunch of these kids they interviewed, they're saying, I have no hatred towards this guy. I would have hatred towards him. That's a fact. I'm sorry. You kill, or even any of these parents. You're telling me that these people don't, they're not furious? And a lot of them cheered when they got the news that he got deported. And now you have all these, these leftards going, it's right, he's a victim. Yes, the guy who disobeyed the rules and killed people is actually the victim. Oh, I get. I'm sorry, Jennifer. I'm sorry. You're right. Jaskirat is the victim because, he has to live every day with the fact that he killed all those kids, and it plays with your mind a little bit. Get this man some fentanyl. I think that's what he needs, and I think that's what he needs to chill out a little bit. He needs he needs to chillax, as they say. As what the kid in the, I think the survivors, they all got together and they go, we're actually raising money for this guy so that he can buy more fentanyl. I think that's what he needs. But yeah, he's being deported. And what about his wife and kids? His wife and kids won't be able to join him. Why? Shocker. They're on welfare. Let's go. I love when the taxpayer subsidizes murderers. Good job, Canada, again. Let's go, Canada won. But yeah, his wife and kids, they can't leave because his kid has severe heart and lung issues that are like chronic, and he needs to, suckle on the teat of taxpayer money. And again, this kid probably did nothing wrong, but let's just get everyone out of here. Sometimes I won't support this guy, and I support him being deported. It's not racist to deport criminals, and that we need to do more of it. The fact that Laken Riley's killer, the illegal Venezuelan migrant that went in and killed that Laken Riley, who was a Columbia nursing student, while also being let off on light bail policies after, I believe, committing a bunch of other crimes. He hasn't been deported. But, it's chill. Illegals and legal migrants need support. In society, we're too racist against criminals, These aren't criminals. These are just people without laws or law abilities. They don't get it, right? They're victims of the system. And because the system is inherently racist and it inherently hates foreigners, we need to support these people. So I think what the government should do is give this guy full citizenship. He's part of Canada now because, he has all the blood of all these Canadians on his hands now, that I think he just became Canadian. He sucked up all the blood and he became Canadian. Just like how Oprah and Big Mike, just how they suck the blood of all those babies. This guy, he absorbed all the blood and all the spirit of all those kids that died. And he is now truly a Canadian citizen. He's more Canadian than all of us. He's actually 16 times more Canadian than me. But, good on the government for deporting. And we need to start deporting it. And just as I'm talking about this good news, the government is now saying that we're bringing in 5 times more Gazan refugees. Because it's not Israel's job to take in these refugees or to help these people. Because Israel totally doesn't want the entirety of Gaza and the West Bank for their own country, right? And they totally don't want to push out all the Palestinians, right? That's why their war has been the cleanest, the safest. Israel would never bomb any hospitals. They wouldn't do any of these things. They would never be hostile and rape and murder a bunch of Palestinian women and kids. No, they would never do that, right? And they really love the Palestinians so much that they're helping them to be pushed out so that they can go to better countries that are not as because here's the thing is, there's a lot of, the government gets this. There's a lot of people in Israel that they don't like the Palestinians, right? They're racist. They have a systemically racist problem and they can't fix it, right? So why not help the Palestinians by pushing them to go to the countries that aren't systemically racist? That they're nice. They like diversity. They help with multiculturalism. So, I volunteer. I think every Canadian household should take in at least one Gazan refugee as a pet or, whatever. But no, originally it was the Canadian government announced that we were going to bring in 1,000 of these refugees of, that if you had a family member in Canada, you'd be able to bring in 1,000 of them. Right, in total. Now they're saying, no, you know what, 5,000. Because here's Israel's plan. This has been their plan all along. Here's what they want. You fund Hamas, which, by the way, they 100% funded Hamas. Mossad was giving money through Qatar to Hamas so that at some point, they knew this was going to happen. So there was a terror attack, which there always is. And now Israel has the means to absolutely dominate and destroy this entire place. And the whole point of it is that they go, here's what they said. Guys, go to Rafah. Go to Rafah. We're not going to attack that. We're just looking for Hamas. And now, after they decimated everything else, they're going, hey guys, there's a few guys in Rafah. We're going to have to go there. And the entire population's in this one city. So what they're doing now is that, guys, just go to the sea. Go to the ports. Right? Why? Because Israel's plan is to get rid of all the Palestinians by decimating their homeland and pushing them out, so that, Western countries who are nice, who are so pure and sweet, can take in all these refugees that for some reason no other Muslim country wants. Oh, I thought they were all your brothers. I thought you guys shared the same values, right? You're all Muslim. You all live in roughly the same area. Why doesn't Egypt want to take any of you? Why doesn't Jordan, Lebanon, Iran, Iraq want to take any of you? Oh, you got 35 Sharia Muslim countries, and nobody and you know who's taking in the Palestinians? It's Canada. Does that make sense at all? Their values are completely incompatible with ours, and it's not even like, Canada's not full. We already have an immigration crisis, and now you're gonna bring in 5,000 unskilled people who don't know anything about the country, don't know anything about the land, the history, the values, the culture, who are unskilled, who will work the same job as every other Indian guy works. And it'll be another net drag on public finances. But hey, maybe that was just the plan all along. I don't know, call me a conspiracy theorist. But maybe that was the plan all along. Who knows? But no, I can't wait till they up this again. Why don't we just bring in all of Gaza? They only have 3 million people there. Why don't we bring them all in? We got room. It's not like house prices are too high. And where are these people going to live? They will live in the $1.5 million suburban houses that have 3 rooms. They're going to live there because we got a lot of room, and we're building more and more houses every day. Right? So bring in all 3 million. Let's just put them up in Nunavut. They got room. They got room in Nunavut. It's not like the grocery prices are at $50 for a bag of chips or $30 for a bottle of orange juice. No, that would never happen. But yeah, I welcome all my Palestinian brothers who definitely support all my values and share my belief systems. And the final story of today is another tale of freedom. Wow, today we're really everywhere. We're back and forth. But today, it's a story about freedom. It's a story about democracy. It's a story about business. All right? And the business of capitalistic ideals and values, and a material that the entire world runs on. And what is that material? Oil. Black gold. No, turns out Russia found 511 billion barrels of oil in the British Antarctic territory. And now everyone's getting mad. They're like, which is, by the way, it's like 10 times more oil than Russia has in the North Sea, or Britain has in the North Sea. It's a massive oil reserve. This thing is humongous. All right. But now all the climate people are going, guys, we can't drill in the Antarctic. All the penguins are going to die. The Antarctic is only for research purposes. Here's what we need. Boeing, send your jets. We're taking over Antarctica. I think that, Russia's got a piece. Britain's got a piece. America's got a piece for research. All right. It's Epstein's Island, but for penguins, okay? So they're gonna, so they got this massive oil reserve. Now everyone's getting worried that you're not allowed to, you're not allowed to drill oil in the Antarctic. All right, leftard. Let me tell you something about oil in the Antarctic. Land isn't real. Borders aren't real. Right. I love a lot of these people and how contradictory all of their opinions are. They go, we need to have open borders. Borders are just a societal construct. They're not real. People should be allowed to move wherever they want. But the second Russia wants to drill for oil in the Antarctic, now everyone's like, well, this territory has a border where you can't exploit resources. Oh, so we do have borders now. Well, which one is it, Bethany? Which one is it? Can we have borders or no borders? You can't have it both ways. You can't have your oil and your immigrants too. You can't have them both. I'm very much supportive of drilling oil in the Antarctic. The increase in oil prices have been a large reason for inflation, alongside with immigration, which it always comes back to, and housing prices increase. But if we did drill more oil in the Antarctic, it should be Western countries. Why let Russia and China drill oil in the Antarctic when we could do it? They're probably going to do it anyways. And by the way, this whole war in the Ukraine just made Russia stronger. Russia's in probably one of its most economically and it's one of its strongest position it's been since the Cold War. It's an extremely strong position. It's cozied up ties with China. They've cozied up ties with India and a bunch of other countries all around it. They're making massive amounts from their gas and their oil revenues. Their economy's churning along because once you have a wartime economy, the economy starts doing good. And it just goes to prove that Western sanctions don't work. So let them drill. If you're going to let anyone drill in the Antarctic, don't let it be Russia. Why complain about how we need to protect all the environment and all of this, while also Biden's diminishing the entire oil reserve? He's going, we need to lower oil prices, so let's just open up the strategic oil reserve in America to bring down oil prices, which it didn't, by the way. Instead of allowing American companies and Canadian companies to start drilling more oil or building more pipelines, perhaps. Maybe allowing the Keystone Pipeline to have been built and not blocked by the Democratic governments. Maybe if Joe Biden, you let cheap Canadian oil start running through the border, which, by the way, I thought we were one of our closest allies, huh? Oh, but if we stop importing oil, then people will go electric. Yeah, how's that working out? How's that one going? So I think it would be in everyone's best interest if we started drilling in the Arctic. If you don't let Russia drill, at least we should drill. And you don't have to drill the whole thing, just a little part. Get a couple million barrels per day, keep it chill, Why not? Why not? Oh, because the environment? What environmental impact would drilling in the Arctic have? I don't understand. Oh, CO2 emissions? Give me one impact besides CO2 emissions that would increase with drilling oil. Because CO2 emissions, let me tell you some. CO2 emissions aren't that big of a deal. They're not that big of a deal. So, that's all I got for today. As usual, I could be, and I am always wrong. So you shouldn't listen to me. But I just want to give quick shout outs to Boeing and George Floyd for doing what they do and doing what they do best. Sobriety and weapons of peace. Thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you next time.